pretty bad. It smells. It is rotting stuff. So that's what it smells like.
Fish,
And
rotten garbage,
and
just
fish.
rotting meat, just
Yeah,
death.
exactly.
Unsafe cities that smell, incompetent people not able to do their job. Crime is up, and the cost of living is up as well. And some people would think of all of these things as a sign that your country is slipping somewhere into the third world. Is Canada actually becoming a third world country? Will it turn into a third world country in 5 to 10 years from now if all of these things continue? Because right now I can tell you from going to places like Brazil and Mexico, I don't think Canada is that far off from becoming just like those countries, which you would argue is a developing nation, which you would argue are developing nations. Canada doesn't seem like the first world anymore, and we're going to discuss it in today's video and react to a bunch of videos that would honestly beg the question. With that being said, let's dive straight into it today.
Just knock on the cabinets.
You know, all you gotta do is Canada crime, just put that into TikTok and Instagram, and you'll probably see some form of a jewelry theft video. I don't know what is going on with Canada and jewelry specifically. I don't know if this is like an insurance fraud, if it's happening this often, but it honestly feels like it's so easy for criminals to just walk into a mall, a busy mall with a ton of people, a lot of witnesses. People have phones who are clearly filming. That's how you have videos like this, and there's other people in the video that you can see with their phone just chasing down these people, but yet they're that brazen that they're just gonna walk into a mall, break the glass, and steal as much jewelry as they can. Honestly, does that sound like a first world country to you? Would you expect to see this if you're at a mall in your city, in your country? And then you not only just see this once or twice, you see it almost all the time if you go and check out Instagram and TikTok. Sometimes when I find these videos, I'm like, have I already seen this video? And then I'll go back and look. I'm like, oh my God, this is a brand new one. Every day, I swear to God, there's a jewelry theft in Toronto.
This is how one of my brothers are living. He's living just out of the carts. He doesn't have any winterized tarps or anything like that. Like, this is not right for our people to be living out in the cold like that. Last night it dropped to -4. -4. Like, the reserves really need to do something about this and our people. Like, this is not right. They're the first people of this land, and this is how they're living? Why? Because of mass immigration. This guy needs housing, and he needs housing now. Cover your face there, brother. Let me take a... Yeah. My brother needs housing, and he needs housing now. Where did you say you were from? Thunderchild. Thunderchild, do a lot better for your people. See you later. See you tomorrow, brother.
That's definitely a sad sight to see, and in Canada, being homeless is way more life-threatening than being homeless in maybe a tropical climate. I'm sure there's other issues that could arise in other dangerous scenarios, but when you're in Canada, the weather, the climate is definitely one of the things you have to consider when you see people homeless on the street. Maybe if people think about that, they might have a little more empathy for people who are suffering like that, because it is really bad. You know, once the winter hits, it's really bad. It can lead to a lot of death. What is going on? Honestly, I wish I could say that surprises me, but living in Toronto for as long as I have, I can tell you that stuff like that is pretty common, especially with the new hires at the TTC. I know exactly where that is as well. That is right near the underpass by the Esplanade and near the Air Canada Centre. Honestly, this area has gotten so bad lately. Before, you used to see one homeless person there, and you'd actually see a lot of buskers there, you know, drumming or playing guitar, especially when you're going there to watch like a Leaf game or a Raptors game. There'd be a bunch of people there walking through, and it's gotten so bad that even during like a Blue Jays game or a Maple Leafs game, when all these people are walking down to the stadium and to the arena, you're met with all of these homeless people. Imagine if you're someone who like took the GO train, or you came in to watch your favorite team, you know, you drove 2 hours outside of the city to come to Toronto, and this is what you see, this is what you're greeted with, you know, this supposed first world country. This is what you see when you're going to go pay, what, $500 a seat to watch the Maple Leafs play, and this is what's right next door. How dystopian is that? First world, I ask. Really? First world?
Got a call at 7 a.m. this morning. I'm not a morning person. I was sleeping. Still answered it. The girl was so stressed out. She says there's a rat in her living room. It started chasing her. Now, a lot of construction's happening in the area when we got here. So, not surprised because they disturb the ground. Rats start coming out. And just, it's very common that people in the area start seeing an uptick in the population of rodents. So definitely not surprised.
Yeah, and I can tell you, I lived in Leslieville in Toronto, and I don't know if this is the area that he's talking about, but we had rats. I remember a rat walking into my living room, and it had like a piece of fur missing on the back, and I just immediately put my feet on top of the couch, and I was freaked out. I couldn't believe it, and then it just kind of ran back into a vent when I noticed that there was someone in the living room. Thank God it was scared of me, not like this rat apparently in the video that was chasing this woman around. And if a rat bites you, honestly, you're probably going to go to the hospital. Not only will it really hurt, you're probably going to get an infection, and it could even be life-threatening. But there's places in Canada, luckily, that don't have rats. Like I think Alberta, they don't have rats, surprisingly, which is really interesting. But there's places that definitely do have a lot of rats, places like Toronto, and I lived in Toronto for a long time, and I know that whenever there's a construction site going on, you have to watch out, because when they disturb the ground, that's where a lot of these rat burrows are, right? They'll actually get out of their nest and run around and kind of cause panic a bit, because they're trying to find a safe place to rest and hide until they come out again.
Okay, so a very typical case of rats in Toronto. We're doing a mass trapping here because they were making their way into the vents and traveling across the house through the vents. So we've covered all the vents in the house and make sure just anything that steps out of the vent, it's dead right there. There's an entry point into the cabinets from here, so we've set up some equipment inside the cabinets. You see the droppings, and if anything comes out, that would be it for them. I will be back in a few days, so I will make an update video and show you what we catch.
Maybe we should check in and see if there's an update at some point. That'd be interesting for a further video. If you want to see that, let me know it down below in the comment section. But I will say what's even more freaky about watching this video is how eerily similar this looks like to the place that I was living in Leslieville that had a bunch of rats. I don't even know. I might even say this is either by the same builder or it's the same area, because it's very similar layout to the house. Ugh, God, I am so thankful to be away from rats. Also, in Toronto, there was a ton of like hornets where we were living, gigantic hornets. Like I thought they were Asian hornets, but luckily they weren't. But regardless, those are other things that you have to watch out for. That has nothing to do with being a third world country, but maybe the excessive amount of rats and audacious rats chasing people, maybe that is a sign that things are getting pretty bad.
Someone's mad. Someone's mad.
Pissed off, what the fuck?
That little piece of shit. That's always another dykes that get mad.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that's pretty common on TDC. People get really loud and rowdy, and you just don't know if like a fight is going to break out at any moment, especially with audacious teenagers, you know, being loud and obnoxious on there. You know, they have no sense of personal space or anything like that. So it can be very anxiety-inducing being on the TDC. You know what else is interesting? This is a CBC video about how the city of Vancouver smells like death and decay. Do you live in Vancouver? Do you agree with this?
It's pretty bad. It smells. It is rotting stuff. So that's what it smells like.
Fish,
And
rotten
garbage
garbage,
and
just
fish.
rotting meat, just
Yeah,
death.
exactly.
It's something people in East Vancouver often raise a stink about, a funk that lingers in the area. Metro Vancouver says there are several potential odor sources nearby: a poultry processor, 2 seafood processors, and West Coast Reduction Limited, a major rendering plant, along with garbage bins and sewers. This summer, the number of complaints about the stink nearly doubled, 883 compared to 456 annually over the past 5 years. Metro Vancouver says West Coast Reduction is suspected to be the source for almost half of them this year alone. The sprawling site runs 24/7, the only plant of its kind in BC. 140 employees process food waste and animal byproducts from chicken, beef, pork, and fish.
The people that produce the meat that goes to supermarket produce two products. Everything else from that animal has value. That comes to us. We render those and produce proteins that go into feed and pet food, and fats that go primarily into renewable fuel.
Nothing's left behind. Hundreds of thousands of pounds of feathers from slaughtered poultry arrive here every day.
We cook it under high pressure and high temperatures in the presence of water, and becomes an important protein source in various different feeds and some fertilizers.
And all of this can lead to a foul aroma. To combat it, the facility has some high-tech methods.
There's about 200 places in this facility where we collect that air and take it to odor treatment, which is primarily here where we essentially incinerate that at high temperature, and then we use that heat energy to generate the steam to go back.
But it doesn't eliminate every stench, especially in the summer. Metro Vancouver admits tracing the source of each complaint is a challenge, but there are others trying to help, or at least give an outlet to complain. Since 2020, the Smell Vancouver app has allowed people to report various odors throughout the city. Users can rank how strong a smell is, write a description, and note any side effects they may be experiencing. Smell's lead researcher says more than 1,300 people used their app this year, a 70% increase from 2024. Most of those reports came from around the rendering plant and food processors.
Pretty much a perennial hotspot in our data, and that's something that we've seen in our past analysis as well, that's certainly an area where there are more reports because of that activity.
While Ingram says West Coast Reduction has received more complaints, the company responds to each one.
We have a weather station that we're standing under right here that is extremely accurate, that allows us to monitor all the weather parameters, including wind, and that's helpful when we get a complaint.
For those who have to endure the smells, they have their own ways of coping.
There was some days where it was terrible down here, like, oh my gosh.
I'm sad to say that I've gotten used to it, and that's terrible.
If somebody's visiting, they'll mention the smell, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's always there.
Coping with a situation that seems here to stay.
Now, at a certain point, you'd think that they'd relocate outside of the city. You know how expensive Vancouver is. The real estate there, the rent there is so expensive, and you're going to be renting in an area where you're spending all of this excess money on housing just to smell horrible rotting decay in the air because of the processing plant. Unbelievable. I will say it is fascinating to see how much they can get out of an animal, and make that stretch like crazy. Like burning feathers for feed for pets is kind of wild, but I guess anything is possible, and you want to make sure everything doesn't go to waste. But it definitely is going to add a foul stench to a city that is very expensive. People do not expect these smells to be coming out of there. Now it's time to react to some of your comments that are very applicable to today's video. With that being said, let's take a look at the very first one here. One time I was working in downtown Vancouver, and I watched a guy take a shit in a McDonald's cup. He left it for someone else to find. Well, hopefully that person liked Wendy's Frosties, I guess, right? I can't believe it was ever listed as a top place to live. Well, now you got people pooping in McDonald's cups, then you have the processing plant making everything else smell. Yeah, it's kind of odd. Definitely feels strange, but I think also the fact that it's been used as a place to hide money for so long in real estate, and also the beautiful view that people always sell as a great place to live. I honestly think those two are contributing factors as to why it's an expensive place to live, but you definitely have things like this, very dystopian. It's very third world, I would say. I saw a bunch of human shit at Dundas Square last year. Imagine a tourist from Sweden goes to visit downtown Toronto. What are they going to think? Well, they're going to think, I got to get the hell back to Sweden and get away from Toronto as fast as I can. Undercover police should ride the bus at random. Hardworking people need protection. Bus drivers do nothing to help. They hide behind their safety wall, and if a driver needs a safety wall, then there's not adequate security and police. Yeah, there's definitely a need for a police presence, or at least security presence, on a lot of TTC buses and subway cars, because it's a growing threat constantly with Toronto and safety. And Toronto is also a city that a lot of tourists visit, and again, like if you're from another country and you're riding on the subway, you're expecting it to be relatively safe, but unfortunately it's not the case here in Canada, and maybe it's because Canada is slipping into the third world. It's definitely on track to slip down to at least the developing nations and maybe a second world country soon if this continues to go on. But maybe I'm wrong. Leave your thoughts down below in the comment section, and with that being said, guys, I'll see you in the next video. Take care.